Imagine waking up in a world where you are not the dominant species, where creatures half your size, standing barely over 3 feet tall, stalk the forest with sharpened stone blades, fierce intelligence and survival instincts honed over millennia. These beings aren't fantasy creatures or myths, they were real. Scientists call them Homo Floresiensis, but the world knows them as the Hobbits of humanity. Now picture yourself dropped into their world. Would you survive a single day? Spoiler, probably not. If you were to travel back in time some 60,000 years and set foot on the Indonesian island of Flores, you'd think you had stumbled into a place straight out of a fantasy novel. The landscape was both breathtaking and treacherous. Dense rainforests cloaked in mist, jagged volcanic peaks looming in the distance, and rivers twisting like serpents through deep valleys. But the real shock wasn't the scenery. It was the creatures that ruled this island. Imagine elephants no bigger than a pony, pygmy versions of the colossal beasts we know today. Picture massive, flesh-eating storks towering over the grasslands, their wings casting shadows that could easily unsettle even the bravest wanderer. And then there were the dragons. Not the fire-breathing kind of legend, but Komodo dragons, giant lizards stretching up to 10 feet long, with venomous bites strong enough to bring down an animal twice their size. On Flores, these monsters weren't just the apex predators, they were daily threats. Now drop Homo Floresiensis into this strange world. Barely over 3 feet tall, with long arms, heavy brows and feet that looked almost comically oversized. They were unlike any human you've ever seen. And yet, against all odds, they thrived here. Where modern humans might freeze in terror at the sound of a dragon's hiss or the flap of a stork's wings, the Flores Hobbits had mastered the art of survival in this dangerous paradise. It's easy to underestimate them because of their size, but Flores wasn't a place where weakness could exist. Every predator was bigger, faster, and stronger than them. To carve out a niche here required ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. This wasn't just an island. It was a crucible that shaped a truly remarkable branch of humanity. For tens of thousands of years, the story of Homo Floresiensis remained hidden beneath the earth. Then, in 2003, everything changed. Deep inside Liang Bua cave on Flores Island, a team of archaeologists uncovered something that seemed almost impossible: the skeleton of a tiny human-like creature, perfectly preserved in the limestone floor. At first, the scientists assumed it must have been the bones of a child. But as they examined the skull and teeth more closely, a startling truth emerged. This wasn't a child at all. It was a fully grown adult, standing just over 3 feet tall. The discovery set off a firestorm in the scientific community. Were these simply diseased or stunted modern humans? Or had we stumbled upon an entirely new species of human that had lived alongside us in the not-so-distant past? The evidence pointed strongly to the latter. Their skulls were smaller than ours, with brains roughly 1/3 the size of a modern human's. Yet despite this, the tools found around them told a different story, a story of intelligence, adaptability, and resilience. Stone blades, carefully crafted from volcanic rock, were scattered across the cave floor. Charred bones hinted at cooking fires, and the remains of pygmy elephants suggested organized hunts that would have required teamwork, planning, and courage. These weren't helpless dwarfs lost in time. They were skilled survivors, fully adapted to their unforgiving island home. For many scientists, the discovery of Homo Floresiensis was nothing short of a revolution. It proved that the human story was far more diverse and complex than anyone had imagined. Instead of a simple ladder leading directly to us, humanity's past was more like a sprawling tree, with branches that twisted, grew, and sometimes broke away entirely. And on the strange island of Flores, one of those branches had taken a path all its own. To imagine daily life for Homo Floresiensis, you have to strip away the comforts we take for granted. No houses, no weapons of metal, no safety nets. Every sunrise meant a fight for survival, and on Flores, the dangers came from every direction. A group of hobbits would set out together at dawn, moving quietly through the dense jungle. They were hunters, but they were also prey. The rustle of leaves might signal a small deer, or the silent approach of a Komodo dragon. Their small size, far from being a weakness, actually gave them an advantage. They could move swiftly through undergrowth, squeeze into caves or crevices too small for predators, and conserve energy where larger creatures could not. Food was scarce and strategy mattered. Catching a pygmy elephant was no easy task. Even reduced in size, these creatures were still powerful. It would have taken cooperation, one group driving the animal toward a trap while others waited with sharp stone tools. Success meant not just food, but bones for crafting, skins for warmth, and fat for fire. Failure could mean starvation. Fire itself was a lifeline. Though simple compared to our methods, their ability to harness flames kept them safe from predators at night and allowed them to cook tougher meats. The glow of firelight in the Liang Bua cave must have been a nightly ritual, faces illuminated by flickering orange, shadows dancing on the limestone walls. Around those fires, they were more than just survivors. They were a community. And yet, despite all their adaptations, they were constantly one mistake away from disaster. A single misstep in the dark, a poorly timed hunt, or a predator too fast to outwit, and life could end in an instant. Flores was paradise and prison all at once, shaping Homo Floresiensis into one of the most remarkable and mysterious humans ever to walk the earth. Now let's run an experiment. Imagine you, a modern human with your 21st century body and mind, suddenly dropped onto Flores Island 60,000 years ago. No phone, no flashlight, no weapons, no maps. Just you, in the middle of a world that doesn't care if you survive or not. At first, you might think your size gives you an advantage. After all, compared to the 3-foot-tall Homo Floresiensis, you tower above them. But in this world, bigger isn't always better. You'd burn calories faster, need more food, and struggle to slip through the dense undergrowth where smaller bodies could dart with ease. The very trait that makes you feel strong would quickly turn into a burden. Then there are the predators. You're walking along a riverbank when you notice ripples on the water. Suddenly, a Komodo dragon lunges from the brush, jaws wide, venom seeping from serrated teeth. Could you outrun it? Probably not. Komodos can sprint in short bursts faster than most humans. Could you fight it? With what? A stick? Even a shallow bite could leave you feverish and weak, sealing your fate within days. Nightfall would be worse. Without fire, the island would swallow you in darkness. You'd hear the shriek of giant storks overhead, the distant roar of water crashing through volcanic valleys, and the low hiss of reptiles in the undergrowth. Your modern nerves, untrained for such sounds, would be stretched to the breaking point. Sleep, nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Homo Floresiensis would be out there, moving through this same world with calm precision. They knew which paths led to safe water, which caves offered shelter, which plants healed wounds, and which berries could kill you. Every decision they made was backed by generations of survival knowledge. You, on the other hand, would be a beginner in their unforgiving classroom, and the tests were life or death. What truly set Homo Floresiensis apart wasn't strength or size, it was knowledge. Their brains were small, about a third the size of ours, but somehow they used every ounce of it with razor-sharp efficiency. Imagine stumbling across one of their camps. Stone blades chipped to perfect sharpness, animal bones split open to reach the calorie-rich marrow, fire carefully tended in the center of the cave. To us, these might look primitive, but in the context of their world, these were technologies of life and death. If you were there, hungry and exhausted, would you even know how to spark a flame without a lighter? Could you tell which rocks could be fractured into cutting tools, or which plants would kill you if you ate them? Survival wasn't instinctive, it was learned, passed down, repeated until it became second nature. For Homo Floresiensis, this was their heritage. For you, it would be trial and error could be fatal. And then there was cooperation. Evidence suggests these small humans worked in groups, hunting together, sharing resources, and protecting one another. Alone, you'd be at a massive disadvantage. While they could surround and harass a pygmy elephant until it collapsed, you'd barely know how to bring down a bird, let alone something hundreds of pounds heavier. Their teamwork was their shield. Your isolation would be your downfall. Even your modern instincts could betray you. Imagine seeing a Komodo dragon stalking the camp. Your reaction might be to panic, run, or throw stones. The Hobbits, on the other hand, would have strategies tested over countless encounters. They knew how to read the animal, when to intimidate, when to retreat, and when to strike. It wasn't just bravery, it was wisdom etched into their very way of life. And that's the sobering truth. Even armed with intelligence shaped by modern society, you'd find yourself clumsy, vulnerable, and lost in a place where every mistake carried a heavy price. So after a day on Flores, the truth sets in. Survival isn't about muscles or modern knowledge. It's about adaptation. And in that measure, Homo Floresiensis would outclass you. They had evolved over thousands of years to fit this environment perfectly, small bodies that required less food, knowledge of every predator's habits, and traditions that kept their community alive. You, by comparison, would be an outsider, clumsy in a world that punished weakness. But here's the twist. Despite all their survival skills, the hobbits themselves didn't make it. At some point in the last 50,000 years, Homo Floresiensis vanished. Their tools and bones remain, but the people themselves are gone. Why? That question still haunts scientists. Some suggest a massive volcanic eruption buried their world in ash. Others point to climate shifts that thinned their resources. And then there's the most unsettling theory of all, that modern humans, arriving on nearby islands around the same time, may have outcompeted them, or even driven them to extinction. It's ironic, isn't it? The very species that might have survived longer in the raw wilderness was erased, while we, fragile in so many ways, went on to dominate the planet. Yet standing in the caves of Flores today, with the echo of dripping water and the faint smell of damp stone, you can almost feel their presence. You can picture their fires, hear their quiet voices in the dark, sense the fierce determination that kept them alive for so long. And maybe that's the real test. Not whether you or I could survive a day in their world, but whether we can understand and respect the resilience they embodied. Their story reminds us that humanity isn't just about who conquered the most land or built the tallest cities. Sometimes, it's about who endured silently, stubbornly, against impossible odds. The world of Homo Floresiensis is gone, but the questions it raises are more alive than ever. What does it truly mean to be human? Is it size, brain power, or the ability to dominate our environment? Or is it resilience, cooperation, and the quiet genius of survival? If you were placed in their world without fire, without tools, without the knowledge passed down through your ancestors, you probably wouldn't last a day. And yet, these 3-foot-tall beings endured for tens of thousands of years in a land filled with predators, volcanoes, and scarcity. Their story is not one of weakness. It's a reminder that survival doesn't always belong to the biggest, the strongest, or even the smartest, but to those who can adapt. When the hobbits of Flores vanished, they left behind more than bones. They left us a challenge, to rethink the story of humanity not as a straight line toward progress, but as a tangled web of lives and struggles, many of which ended in silence. And in that silence lies one of the most haunting truths of all, that our world once held other kinds of humans, and they may have been far tougher than us. So the next time you feel invincible with your modern comforts, remember the tiny people of Flores. They lived in a world that would break most of us in hours, and they thrived there for millennia. If you found their story as humbling and fascinating as we did, subscribe for more forgotten chapters of our past. Because the deeper we dig into human history, the more we discover that the real world has always been stranger and far more extraordinary than fiction.